Unlike most collection videos on YouTube, this one begins not with a shot of a spacious, beautiful room with some neatly displayed collectibles. It begins with a shot of a shed. Yes, this is where the bulk of my collection lives. Mainly due to lack of space within the house itself. The little box there has my old Pal the Force 2 Star Wars figures. That black box there with my Marvel Legends in it. So don't worry, there are some things on display inside the actual house. So here you can see my Dennis Fisher, Doctor Who, Tom Baker and Leela dolls from the 1970s. Actually was made by Mego really, but they came out with Dennis Fisher on the boxes. Doctor's fairly common, but Leela is very hard to get, and that one there actually is complete. Get a bit of a close if we can. A little glass cabinet so that you can see its reflections on the glass. Actually has a knife. Fortunately the Doctor is actually missing his sonic screwdriver and his tie. Also, this is my actual one from childhood. So you can see he's actually missing his black shoes. It actually has some brown shoes that I took from the Lone Ranger. Also have the TARDIS that goes with these, but that's not on display. Hopefully that'll go on my future cabinets I'm having to buy in the not too distant future. Also the radio controlled Dalek, which is on display. Not radio controlled, I'm talking about the talking Dalek, sorry, Ballador did in the 1970s. But I don't have the Dennis Fisher Dalek or the Dennis Fisher Cyberman or the giant robot. Wouldn't mind picking up the giant robot or the Dalek, not a huge fan of the Cyberman though, so I'm kind of not too disappointed that I haven't got that. There's also a K9 as well, isn't there, but again I haven't got that yet either. Here we have the Ertl Star Trek 3 action figures from the 1980s. I've got Mr. Spock, Klingon and Scotty and Diecast Excelsior. Also a Diecast Enterprise and Bird of Prey lurking around somewhere. I'm missing Captain Kirk, still looking for him. These are quite hard to get because they actually break very easy. They're built like 1980s G.I. Joes, and the sort of rubber bands inside of these are sort of very delicate and bad at breaking. So we're seeing sort of ones on eBay that are broken in the packet still. There's a glass cabinet with various Corgi cars inside it. And you've got the Aston Martin is actually a reissue from the 1990s. Saints Volvo is a restored one with a repro box. You have the Noddy car and a Chevrolet van. A bit of Master Bus. Some Matchbox cars there, and the only piece of Blake 7 merchandise that I own, which is the Corgi Liberator there. I love action figures based on Blake 7, but doesn't seem to be happening any day soon. Right, here we can see my Mego dolls. Not all original, some are by EMCE and some are by CTVT, I believe the company's called. Bit of a mixture really. On Biff Bang Pow as well, don't forget them. They're a recent addition to Mego style figure world. Around these, go through them. These aren't normally on the floor by the way, they normally sit under my wardrobe in the box, but basically I brought them down for this video. My hope is one day I'll have like an IKEA Delta cabinet in this position, and they'll be in there with lots of other things of their era as it were. So here we can see the Master, the Romulan, a reissue, not that rich, so it's not an original. The Klingon, the Cheran, who is at the back there. Mr. Spock, Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, Chekhov, also wasn't made in the 70s, he's one that EMCE made a little while back. There's a Mugato in his hilarious suit. There's Cornelius, or Galen depending which one you want it to be. We have Commander Koenig from Space 1999, who's extremely rare. Got very lucky with finding that one at a car boot sale or UK flea market. The Andorran. There you go, Captain Zorg, I believe his name is, played by Christopher Lee in the TV show. There's also a Soul Drape at the back there, kind of hiding in the shadows. There's the Sontaran from Doctor Who. Another recent one, and here's some brand new ones that are still on the cards, which I haven't opened up yet. You can get a decent look at these. There's Leela from Doctor Who by Biff Bang Pow. Apollo from Battlestar Galactica, also by Biff Bang Pow. And the Cyber Leader, also by Biff Bang Pow. If I don't have it, is actually a Doctor by Biff Bang Pow. They've done Tom Baker and William Hartnell and Matt Smith are coming out. I might pick up Hartnell actually because I'm a bit sick of all the Tom Bakers that I have in my collection. On top there, I just put the. It's actually by Artisan that one, but they're now made by Diamond Select, these Enterprises. And mine, like every single other one on the face of the planet, the stand broke on it, so I've had to sort of improvise with this sort of small piece of sort of acrylic style sheet that I've made a little stand out of basically there, just to sort of keep this upright so it doesn't look like the sinking Titanic when it's sort of sitting on shelves or on display. There we go. Let's look at these guys. Right, now on to some modern toys. Here's some Matt Smith 11th Doctor era action figures from Character Options, or Underground Toys if you're in the United States. They're on top of a Revelation of the Daleks box set with a few sort of modern day Doctor Who toys in front of them. My main thing these days is collecting the sort of classic Doctor Who figures rather than the modern ones. I think of those as more like the sort of toys I should have had back in the 1980s because I was desperate for Doctor Who figures and there wasn't any back then. Then the DePauls came out and they were sadly fantastic. And when these came out I was like in absolute second heaven and they just look so good and the actual likenesses of the actors are really, really, really good. This part of the display cabinet has again more Doctor Who action figures by Character Options. These are mainly sort of classic Doctors. Daleks at the back there as well. Again, these are like the absolute toys I dreamed of as a kid really. I was just desperate for action figures based on Doctor Who when I was younger. These came out and they look just so fantastic. Some more Doctor Who action figures. These are sort of, again, a bit of a mixture of classic and modern series figures really. Okay, more Daleks at the back there. Maybe a bit high, you can see who's there. Not very many of the David Tennant, Chris Eccleston era figures out now. I've got those set in storage in a separate box somewhere and maybe I'll show you those later on. Just space is the issue here, so I'm desperate to get another cabinet at some point in the future and have a bit more out on display really. Most recent addition there of course is actually Ace, I only picked up the other week. Just waiting for the special weapons Dalek to turn up really. I'll be very, very happy when that comes out. I'm looking forward to getting that one. So here you can see my Superpowers figures collection. Superpowers from them being from the 1980s. So it took me a good few years to get these together. These are quite hard to come by in the UK. Well, these I picked up when I was in the States last year. I went to Florida. I went to the Acme comic store. They sell loads of old toys. That's in Longwood, Florida. And I hardly recommend going there for a visit if ever you're in that neck of the woods, as it were. Also see my Corgi Batmobile there as well. It's taken me close to 20 years to get most of these. These are very hard to come by. There's a few DC classics there as well. Also got the Mego Batmobile, which I haven't got on display. Again, that will go in my second cabinet when I actually buy it, which is hopefully going to be someday, I don't know when. Also around the side here. To show you first, we've got Wonder Woman there on a short Canadian card. In front of her we've got some Mego comic action heroes. There's a Batmobile, Batman even. Batman hiding behind Hawkman, can't really see him very well there. Again, not the prettiest figures in the world, but of their time, still worth having. Those superpowers do show them up somewhat. So what I would love is basically for Gentle Giant who do those sort of 12-inch high vintage Star Wars figure reproductions, to do some sort of 12-inch reproductions of superpowers as well. It would look quite nice to see these at 12 inches high. They're quite eye-catching, quite nice very colourful. Now the bottom shelf is a bit of a jumble this really, because I've just, again, when I get a bit better, or another cabinet, hopefully I'll spread these out a little bit. It's a bit of a mixture of Master of the Universe classics all jumbled in there together. A few some modern Thundercats figures, Flash Gordon in the back there. Wonder Woman, because I couldn't put her on the shelf above with the superpowers. And there's some Art Asylum and Dumb Select Star Trek figures there. At the front we've got some Corgis and Dinkies. Got Corgi Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Dinky Captain Scarlet Spectrum Pursuit Vehicle, Dinky UFO Interceptor, with the Gloob Next Generation Enterprise D sort of sitting at the side there. There's a few Next Generation figures at the back there which you can't really see very clearly, but they're basically Riker, Tasha Yar and Captain Picard. Again, I'm hoping to get another cabinet so I can spread this shelf out a little bit and have just a Star Trek shelf, Masters of the Universe shelf. I do have quite a few of the old Masters of the Universe figures, but I don't have them on display because they don't display that well, I find, of them, because of those rather horrible elasticated legs they have. They tend to fall over quite easily and just look really odd. I like these a lot more. I think these have got nice poses and nice articulation. The only problem is these are very, very expensive to sort of buy in the UK because we have to pay customer charges when we have them shipped from Matty Collector, and so these can cost up to £30–40 sometimes, which is just crazy money to pay for a sort of 7-inch action figure. That's why I've got so few of them. Those I do have, I've got them sort of at quite good deals and quite cheaply. Okay, and this shelf is a bit cluttered. I need to really go through this and get this organised. You have a box of various Doctor Who figures that aren't on display due to the lack of space. There's all the pole ones in there as well. So on top here we've got some Diamond Select 18-inch Star Wars, the 18-inch Necker Alien, some of the Gentle Giant 12-inch vintage figures. Then we've got the 2004 Millennium Falcon, still saving up for the big Legacy one. Hopefully you want to come my way at a good price soon. And then we've got an old 1978 12-inch scale, 6-inch R2-D2 and the Java. R2's going a lovely shade of yellow, as you see, compared to his modern Gentle Giant equivalent there. This first shelf has mainly sort of Gentle Giant items in. A few vintage figures are crept in as well though for Star Wars. Hopefully give the vintage figures their own sort of little display case at some point, but they're having to sort of live in here for the meantime. It's in there. Also have this kind of nice sort of slightly stalkerish kind of like collection of scantily clad ladies here. Partly secure, you can see you've got the sleeve Leia bust there. Slave Leia statue. Hula. Darth Talon. And there's the Princess Leia that she came out as an accessory to the Gentle Giant Jabba the Hutt statue. I haven't got that, so I've just got her on her own. We need to give these vintage figures their own little sort of case at some point. So mainly more Gentle Giant statues, busts. Slightly more masculine these ones though. Again, more vintage figures in here. Also have some vintage Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones himself took me half a, well, how should we say, I'll say half a lifetime, but a good few decades to get hold of. So here's my 12-inch sideshow Star Wars figures. Mainly older ones because I'm too poor to afford the more recent ones that are a lot more expensive, like Stormtrooper and Boba Fett and all those, which are crazily priced, but as they price them more like Hot Toys now. Also a few old sort of vintage Star Wars 12-inch in there, like Darth Vader's in there. And just see C-3PO hiding behind Luke there. Purple-haired girl is Gay Ellis from UFO. I don't know where to put her, so she's in there with those. I'd like some more space to spread these out ideally, but that's probably another cabinet I'm going to need to purchase. Down the front here basically we have the last 17 vintage Star Wars figures. Of course, main point of interest here is quite unusual, quite hard to find. Is Yak Face, who only came out in UK, Canada and Europe I believe. Actually I got mine quite easily and at quite a good price. But that was back in the 1990s before things went a bit crazy with the pricing on him. So I was very lucky to get him actually. So next level is my Generation 1 Transformers. I used to have a lot more of these, but I sold quite a few on. It's kind of kept the basics really, or essentially the first sort of 2 or 3 years worth of Transformers from the 80s, which are my favourites. I don't really like a lot of the ones that came out sort of later in the 80s and into the 90s. There's my rarest find there was the twin cast blue version of Blaster. I wanted a Blaster for many years and finally found one last year in a comic shop. Normally has sort of like cheap and cheerful stuff that people have dumped on them, and shockingly it actually had a twin cast Blaster there, so glad I bought that for £20. I could have been to the States sort of a few weeks beforehand hoping to try and get him in the USA, and nowhere had him. All the shops I went to sold vintage toys, so I was quite pleased to pick him up in London. Of course there's an odd man out to work here. The swoop in there is actually from the world's smallest Transformers line. I'm still trying to get my hands on an original swoop. He didn't come out in the UK in the 1980s and he is really hard to get, and the ones in the States go for a lot because he's quite fragile and delicate, so at the moment he's sort of acting as a sort of stand-in for the original 1980s one. So more Generation 1 Transformers. You can see the tank part of Omega Supreme came from the same shop as the Twin Cast Blaster did, so I got very lucky from what that shop had. Megatron missing his sort of fusion cannon cross scope, taking me years to sort of piece him together from the different parts that are out there. Got the back there, some Ulysses 31, there's a Blue Engineer robot. There's a Shogun Warrior, great granddaddies of Transformers, so I guess they belong in the same case. There's No, a little red robot there from Ulysses 31 in the centre there. And there's the alternator Shockwave acting as a stand-in for the Generation 1 toy, which I'm still trying to get hold of, and it's taken me years to get one at a decent price. Still holding out hope though. Also Generation 2 Megatron there, he's one of my few Generation 2 Transformers actually. I'm not a huge fan of those, but I like that one. It gives Megatron a bit of good old size, which is what he needs. Don't normally have these on the floor, but you can see the sort of modern ATSG Walker there. Imperial Shuttle. And the Turbo Tank. Can't be missing its side. Don't normally sit on the floor, but I just thought I'd pull them out just for the sake of this video really. So here we have shelves I kind of put various things that I've no other home for really. You can see some Action Man things there. Mego Hulk. Star Wars micro collection. So we've got glare on these that's coming from the sort of lights. The room is quite bright. I can't dim, I'm afraid. Go, sort of 12-inch Indiana Jones there. Very lucky to get him. Got him at a very good price on eBay auction on a Sunday morning, which nobody else seemed to have bid on. Missing his hat, but the hat looks horrible, so I'm not too bothered about that really. Here's the Palatoy Action Force headquarters playset. Very similar to the Death Star playset. Again, have lots of other Action Force figures, but no one's storage, you don't have the space to put those out, so maybe one day I will have. This is very similar, I said, to the Palatoy Death Star. She shares some parts of the clips are the same, and the sort of little chute parts is the same. There's a sort of modern large wing TIE fighter. There's the sort of larger scale X-wing fighter, and there's $6 million man in his transport station there. And behind that we've got sort of various, we're at the glare here from the lights in the middle of the room. Various sort of vintage Star Wars, boxed. Some originals, some of the sort of retro style boxes that Hasbro been putting vehicles in the last few years. Again, I have lots of various boxed vintage Star Wars still in my parents' house, just come and live with me here hopefully one day. I'd like to have sort of lots of shelves here for my various Star Wars vehicles, but I don't think my wife's going to be very keen on that, but maybe one day. Right, after seeing the shelf, the video I shot earlier, I decided to have a quick tidy up on here and just change it out a little bit, put some more Star Wars on here. So I've got the Imperial Shuttle up there now and the ATST. Still got the Action Force headquarters there. Put the Y-wing on top. There's the big TIE fighter and X-wing and $6 million man rocket, as we saw in the last clip. Looks a little bit more tidier this way. So here's the latest thing I've acquired. It's actually for my Christmas, so that's why I've still got its cardboard tray. This is the 31-inch Darth Vader by Jakks Pacific, which is absolutely humongous. Looks really good on display. We wanted some kind of like premium format sideshow type statue of Darth Vader, and we've been far too poor to afford the ones that people like Sideshow have put out. So it's quite good to get this, which is a measly £25. To show you how big this is. There's close up his face there, which is actually based on the same scan as the Gentle Giant bust, which I also have in my cabinet. Show you how big he is. Here I have a 1979 12-inch Stormtrooper, which will stand in beside Darth. And you shall see that this Darth Vader towers over a 12-inch Stormtrooper. Look at that. Can't get the same shot together because there's just such a huge size difference. I think this has just become the most favourite thing I actually own now. Even though I don't really have it until Christmas Day. I hope to do some more of these. would really like a Princess Leia and Slave outfit actually this size. That I'd really, really like.